Hello everybody, it's been a while. I have been busy. I have written and illustrated 2 graphic novels, been studying the language of Swedish, and a couple other little things, working some conventions, being active, all of that. And I have realized that I still really miss making YouTube videos, but I haven't had any ideas on what to YouTube. Something else I've been working on was a concept for a novel. This one was not planned as a graphic novel, but it's like a young adult novel. And I thought I would just make a recording real quick of my thoughts of kind of the basics of this world, and then sit down and do some sketches and doodles, mix them together, and make it a video. So this is that audio while I think out loud. I've never recorded the audio before doing art, but I really just want to sketch and think and use the audio itself as kind of like a jumping off point for the art, which I think is a fun little way to think about it because of the fact that this is not meant to be I've illustrated some of these pages, I'll be honest, but it's not fully visualized. And honestly, so getting to the point. Okay, so the story is the dragon rider and the wood carver's daughter, and it's a parallel story with a young dragon rider and a wood carver's daughter. And they're in the same world, but you get to see 2 very big different sides of it. One is about Vernon and his dragon Creek, who are trying to go to dragon rider school. And the other one is about Helena, who is on a giant land pirate ship and is the daughter of the woodcarver who famously parlayed with the land pirate ship captain, so that way they could build a society upon the deck of the monument, which is the name of the giant land pirate ship, which is so big you can put an entire town on top and it is fine. So really cool images and stuff like that. But that's the general. Okay, hold on. Here was my cat stomping across my entire desk. Hello, Penny. But that's the general idea. But what I wanted to talk about in this video is kind of the magic system. And I'm not going to get into super plot details, but essentially you have 2 main parts, but I want there to be kind of a 3rd section or maybe even a 4th section. But you have dragons, which exist, and hold on, cat stomping across my desk the other way. Okay, so you have dragons and dragon riders, and then you have witches and witches familiars, and those are 2 magical echelons of society historically, and how it's quote unquote supposed to work is dragon riders are boys and witches are girls. Plot happens, whatever. Dragons are found in the wild. They're born in the wild and are an amalgamation of creatures. They're not all scaly. There are several named dragons in the series that I've come through so far. Creek is supposed to be quite unusual because dragons do not come in black. They usually come in bright colors, and while Creek is black with green and pink spots, black is very, very unusual. Creek is also very small for a dragon. Creek is roughly the size of a panther, a tiger at its largest, and most dragons are minimum the size of a car, usually the size of a sedan. So Creek is supposed to stand out and be different for plot reasons. Several dragons are described in the story, and there's tons of background dragons because dragon school, but they are very think like the labyrinth and dark crystal, the Jim Henson sort of creature about them, and amalgamations of like different features and different creatures. One of the dragons who's like important in the story, who's not Creek, is Cortan, who's like this huge meaty dragon with 6 flanks. So it's almost like a weird caterpillar. Big cylindrical fat body, no neck, and like tusky teeth and like a super wide mouth. 2 sets of wings, but they're short. But all of its limbs are short, and it's got spines all over its back and bulging eyes. Basically, dragon plus pug plus caterpillar. And just this like bulgy, bulbous, huge creature. And I love Cortan. It's great. Another dragon that comes up is the 3-headed dragon. I haven't established a name for it yet. But it is the dragon of the like spoiled rich kid. And it's huge. Has white scales, and 3 heads. The right one, it has like a massive jutting out lower jaw and is like just description words. It has tusk-like teeth. I apparently like to describe tusk-like teeth often. The left head has like a really long, slender neck, and like a snake-like appearance, but like stretched out. But the third head, which is like centered almost in the chest, is like meek and like almost doughy with little horn on the end of its nose. So like even though they're all part of the same creature, each head is like massively different, and they have like different personalities. So like this, it's like I said, it's a very Jim Henson amalgamous thing. I think my favorite dragon that is not Greek has to be Garth. Garth has an extremely long snout, kind of like a gharial, which is like a type of crocodilian, it's like a super thin, long snout. Like, it's so narrow, it's like as thick as like Vernon, who's like a small child, not small child, but like a kid's arm, and just jagged teeth everywhere. And then this body that is so long that it like stretches all around a room and like out the window, insanely long. And then like every couple feet there is little chicken legs and a set of feathered wings, and like an almost uncountable amount. So like it just continues like that. All dragons have like a magical proficiency. Garth has wind magic, which is how he's able to fly, and like the 3-headed dragon has ice magic, but it's not super specific like elemental. There's another dragon called Summers, who is imagine a stag, but covered in like gelatinous purpley dark blue scales that kind of sparkle, but like not, it's almost like if the scales of a dragon, but the scales were made out of beetles. So it's this very like shiny, hard, jagged, not jagged, but like, you know how beetle shells are, stag, but massive, like at full height, like taller than a building. Honestly, like 2 stories tall. It's huge. Has a thick crocodilian tail, and then instead of antlers, has like these 2 fins almost that jut out from the top of its head all the way down its back and down the tail. And Summers also has like teeth, like gnarly teeth, because everything seems to have gnarly teeth if it's a dragon. But Summers has this like mist smoke that can like put people and dragons to sleep. And then Creek, the main dragon of the story, has shape-shifting powers. So like elemental powers are more common but other powers can happen. Creek. I love Creek because I, as the author and an artist, have struggled to draw Creek. Because I like that about Creek. Creek is hard to describe and imagine, but also I imagine it so clearly. So Creek, like I said, is like the size of like a panther or tiger at best. Shape-shifting powers. And covered in short black fur with speckles of green and pink. So quite, strange looking. Can't quite decide if the speckles are like lizardy salamander or like big cat, but they're there. Creek has 2 tails, cat-like tails. But even though like I've been describing it as like a panther or leopard, the body shape is actually much closer to like a marten, a pine marten. So like elongated body, and more grippy hands. It has a set of wings that are not traditional dragon wings or bat-like wings that are closer to like a pterodactyl, where it's one long membrane and then like little hands, because it's often described as like walking on the little hands or even like clasping the little hands around its collarbone, so that way the wings look like a cape. It's just such a cute little emotive thing, these little hands. And then Creek has a what's described as like a bullet-shaped head, which is like very round, very wide, incredibly wide mouth. Kind of salamander-ish, but almost like vertical is how I've imagined it. More like a dimorphodon. I'm a dinosaur nerd, you guys know this now. Rather than like a freaking toothless. No ears or anything like that, and then 4 golden eyes. So as you've heard, like dragons are weird, often very predatory, hence all of the tusk-like teeth. Almost always have wings. Summers is our example without wings, but can still fly. And this is where I'm kind of getting into trying to figure out the lore of the world, because what makes a dragon not a creature? Because I do want there to be other creatures in the world that aren't dragons that are still fantastical. So what I'm trying to figure out is dragon like a specific that's a dragon, obviously, or is it a little more confuddled? Like, do you have to like figure out if something's going to be a dragon? Is it having the elemental power that makes it a dragon? Flight, a certain level of intelligence. Dragons are not like super human intelligence or anything like that. They're more like they understand commands, but like, yeah, there's not much there. Also trying to decide if dragon riders can be telepathic with their dragons, because I've always liked that. That stems back to reading like the Dragons of Perrin series and stuff like that. I always found that really interesting. Specifically though, dragons can't talk. That's established. Vocally, dragons cannot talk. But, and I'm at like 15 minutes here, if we circle back around, familiars, witches familiars can talk, and that's like the drastic difference between the two. Dragons can't talk, witches familiars can talk. So, the dragon riding school also is a witch school. We don't talk too much about that, but like witches familiars clearly exist. And they come in more later, much later, with the Woodcarver's Daughter story. But how familiars work is a spirit exists, a spirit or a sprite or a fairy. I think I was going to just call them fairies, because they're supposed to be more than just like a wispy spirit. They take a vague animal shape, and they enter into a contract with a young witch. And in that binding situation, the witch has to sacrifice something that is important to them to create this bond. And then the fairy which, like I said, was a vague animal shape, takes on the attributes of that sacrificed object, thus kind of bonding them together. This creates some really cool combinations of these natural and unnatural beings. So some witches' familiars that are described. The first one mentioned in the story is a snake, kind of like a boa, that is made out of porcelain. And it still moves around like a snake. It's a magical creature. But it's like slithering across a shelf of china in a tea shop. But it is a snake. Covered in, like, you know, the little flower details and stuff from a teacup set. And like I said, they can talk. They also have a vague elemental kind of like leaning for different types of magic. But I haven't really established if that comes from the fairy before it becomes a familiar, or if that becomes from the witch themselves. Other familiars mentioned is a spider that is also a brooch with a massive sapphire for its abdomen and like silver spindly legs. There is a very small fawn. That's the other thing is they're often very small, like dog-sized most. You have a small fawn that appears to be made out of a highly polished lacquered wood. There is multiple ceramic birds that belong to one witch, and I haven't decided if it was just like a multiplication magic or if I'm even gonna question why that witch has multiple birds. But like delicate ceramic birds. And then later on we find one that's a little bit less showy and fancy. That is a cow made out of rags that often will lay still and you can't quite tell if it's a pile of rags or actual like creature. And like I love that mental image of this just like lethargic, because it belongs to an incredibly old witch. Little cow, and then a very small, like cup your hand sized white rabbit made out of kind of like a fraying lace. So two very different moments between dragons and fairies. Both have a form of contract to bind the human with the creature. Like I said, the fairies, you have to give something up. Dragons is very different. You need to subjugate your dragon in a way. I mean, that's what it's kind of become in modern times, but it's usually you need to have the dragon basically agree to be with you. Which with the fairies, it can be a little bit less that, but that's a whole nother thing to get into. You sign the contract, you're bonded with the creature, but there is also a process later on that the contracts are formalized, and once that process is complete, you now have more control over your dragon or your familiar, and you are able to draw upon their magics. So that is the point. During the ceremony, the contract that you had originally gets forged into a gemstone. And through that gemstone, dragon riders have it placed into a weapon, allowing the dragon riders to use some amount of their dragon's magic power. And the witches have it forged into a piece of jewelry, at which moment they also get a wand to then cast magic spells. So before that kind of forging, the witch's magic is a little more hedge witchy, more going on vibes and feelings and that sort of intention. But after the forging, they have more concrete use of magic and are learning specific spells and things like that. And then with the dragon riders, they are learning to fight with the magical weapon, and they have more command over their dragon. But I was talking out the base. When I say basics, the basics. And there's so many other deeper things I've been trying to figure out. But if I have fun with this and I like this, after I sit down and draw for these 20 minutes of this video, I am going to probably do another one of these to like iron out any thoughts and feelings and such. If you found this interesting, please ask questions, please, in the comment section, because explaining my process and thoughts of how the magic system in this world works, and specifics on the story, I'll tell you about the main characters, really will help me kind of iron out my thoughts through explanation. So please ask questions. Please. Let me know what you want to know more about. Because if I don't have an answer, I'll have to sit there and think of an answer, and that's good for me. Besides that, thank you for listening to this rambling and looking at whatever I decided to draw. And I hope you have a lovely day, and hopefully I will do this again soon, and we will discuss more of this story, or do something else. I don't know. I miss doing YouTube. But thank you. Have a lovely day, and I guess I'll see you later. Bye.